to Introduction to the Apostolic Writings. I'm Derek Lehman. This is a course for Messianic Jewish Theological Institute. You can find MJTI at sjs.mjti.org, and you can find me at dereklehman.com, DEREKLEMAN.com. In this segment, I want to talk about reading the New Testament with fresh eyes. There are many myths about the Gospels, the letters, the history, and the apocalypse that we call the New Testament, and a lot of those misunderstandings are minor, but they lead to errors. And a lot of the misunderstandings also lead to a shallow reading of the New Testament in general. The Apostolic Writings help us to know how to live by faith in a world that's mostly hostile to godly living, and how to keep believing during the long delay of the second coming. But many of the myths and misunderstandings can hold us back from a deeper knowledge of the New Testament and its writings. I made a short list of common myths and misunderstandings, and let me go through them. Number 1, many readers think that Matthew was the first gospel to be written. Number 2, it's a common misunderstanding to think that Yeshua's words were carefully recorded while he was speaking, so that they were taken down word for word. Number 3, the Gospels are typically read as if the disciples knew all along who Yeshua was. Number 4, people overlook the fact that at most one of the Gospel writers, John, was an eyewitness. Number 5, people either forget or they don't know that the Gospels are biographies based on earlier sources. Number 6, readers think that the early community had all the answers and that the New Testament solves all mysteries. Number 7, the letters are read as if they are timeless and universal theology books and church manuals instead of what they actually are, situational communications with some very specific and limited instructions in some cases. Number 8, too many readers have thought that the apostles were done with Judaism and were forming a new religion. Number 9, people want to ignore or undervalue the Hebrew Bible, the allusions to the Hebrew Bible that are found throughout the Apostolic Writings. And last, many think it is important to ignore the frequent references to Rome in the book of Revelation and pretend that the book is simply a timeline of the last days. There is a way of reading the Bible simply, and this way is not completely wrong. People who look for simple advice and inspiration in the New Testament will find it. But at best, this kind of reading gives only half of what is here. And it often results in errors, arguments, and misunderstandings. The apostles were great minds. They were people in touch with deep mysteries, and we should read them deeply. If you don't realize that Mark was the first gospel, you'll miss out on the chance to see how Matthew and Luke added their ideas to the story. If you think the teachings of Yeshua were recorded word for word, then you'll be vulnerable when you read critics who say we can't trust the Gospels at all and we have no idea what Yeshua's true words were. You'll be scandalized by attacks on John's Gospel if you don't understand why his Gospel in particular is so different from the others. You'll believe the skeptics about the historical Yeshua if you don't understand Greek-style biographies and you don't see in the Gospels themselves the many signs of eyewitness sources. You'll be lambs at the slaughter for the skeptics if you think the New Testament solves all mysteries and if you don't see the tensions that are there in apostolic thought. And you'll have a hard time interpreting key issues if you think all of the New Testament letters are timeless and universal directions, instead of recognizing some specific and varied customs. Furthermore, the terrible history of anti-Semitism is directly connected to misreading the New Testament, to reading it in an anti-Jewish manner. And the brilliant and varied use of the Hebrew Bible in the New Testament has been neglected in popular teaching. And finally, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people have avoided studying the book of Revelation because they think it's too difficult or controversial. So what we need is to read the New Testament with fresh eyes. We need to learn our history and get some literary insight into these texts and documents passed down to us from the apostolic generations. We don't want to be what Peter called the ignorant and unstable, who distort our understanding of Paul's teaching or that of any other New Testament author. The Jewish and the Greco-Roman world at the time were intellectually alive, and so are the apostolic writings. I'm Derek Lehman.